The Great Depression was the worst economic disaster in modern history. In just a few years, people went from luxury, parties, and optimism to unemployment, poverty, and breadlines. Families lost their life savings, banks collapsed, entire industries shut down, and the effects didn't stop in America. The shock spread worldwide and helped set the stage for World War II. So what actually caused the Great Depression? Was it just the stock market crash, or something deeper? To understand it, we need to go back to 1918. World War I had just ended. American soldiers returned victorious. During the war, women had entered the workforce in large numbers. Factories expanded, production increased. When the war ended, the U.S. economy exploded with growth. Jobs were plentiful, wages rose, confidence was high. This period became known as the Roaring Twenties. It was an era of jazz music, nightlife, and cultural freedom. People believed a new age of prosperity had arrived permanently. At the center of this boom was mass production. In Detroit, Henry Ford revolutionized manufacturing with the moving assembly line. His Model T car went from costing $780 in 1910 to just $290 by 1924. For the first time, average Americans could afford cars. Other companies copied Ford's system. Radios, washing machines, and vacuum cleaners flooded the market. Advertising through radio exploded. Consumerism was born. People didn't just want products, they wanted the newest products. To keep demand high, banks began offering easy credit. People bought goods using money they didn't yet have. They also invested in stocks the same way. Buying stocks on margin allowed people to pay as little as 10 to 40% up front and borrow the rest. The stock market surged. From 1921 to 1929, the U.S. stock market increased 6 times over. Everyone talked about stocks: taxi drivers, shop owners, families at dinner tables. The belief was simple: stocks always go up. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. By the mid-20s, demand for products slowed. Europe was still recovering from World War I and couldn't afford American goods. Global trade stalled. Yet stock prices kept rising, not because of real growth, but because of speculation and borrowed money. Prices were no longer based on fundamentals. They were driven by greed and fantasy. Then came October 29th. On October 24th, Black Thursday, panic selling began. Nearly 13 million shares were sold in one day. Markets fell sharply. 5 days later came Black Tuesday, over 16 million shares sold. In just 2 weeks, stocks lost about 1/3 of their value. Millions of Americans were wiped out overnight. The crash alone didn't cause the Great Depression. The real problem was the banking system. At the time, most banks were small and unregulated. They loaned customer deposits to stock speculators. When stocks collapsed, banks collapsed too. There was no deposit insurance. If your bank failed, your money was gone. Fear spread fast. People rushed to withdraw cash, even from healthy banks. This created massive bank runs. 1/3 of U.S. banks failed. As banks collapsed, the money supply shrank by 31%. Deflation took over. Money became more valuable, so people stopped spending. Businesses stopped investing. Debt became harder to repay. Unemployment exploded. The Federal Reserve did almost nothing. It allowed banks to fail and money supply to collapse. President Herbert Hoover believed the economy would fix itself. Instead, he passed the Smoot-Hawley tariff, raising import taxes by 20%. Other countries retaliated. Global trade collapsed by 66%. The Depression deepened worldwide. By the early 1930s,
25% of Americans were unemployed, 9,000 banks had failed, millions were homeless, breadlines filled cities, shantytowns called Hoovervilles appeared everywhere. In 1932, Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected. His New Deal introduced Social Security, unemployment insurance, minimum wage, bank deposit insurance, FDIC, market regulation, SEC. Confidence slowly returned. But the Great Depression truly ended only when World War II began in 1939, as massive government spending restarted the economy. The Great Depression teaches us one timeless lesson. When greed replaces reason, when easy money hides risk, and when people believe this time is different, the crash always comes. History doesn't repeat itself, but it always warns us.